do that, but...
Okay, we are live. All right. So go ahead and grab your link and throw it up on there real quick. Hey Dee, everyone coming to the chat. Good to see you. We're here with Raeona. We're gonna talk to her about how she hit up the Justice Center. We got a little technical agenda to hit up real quick, and then we'll start. So it's gonna be just a moment with me. Bear with me. Is audio working, guys? Yeet. That's freight brokers in there. I see the yeets. So just make sure, you guys, is my audio coming through? Can someone tell me that? Is audio good? Audio? I got a yup. I'm not getting a straight yes. Audio is good. Thank you, Ash, for that.
All right.
You good to go?
Yep.
You going live on yours too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good, yeah. Oh, that's...
Just hold it there.
If you want.
What do you say?
I was gonna say you can put it here and then just turn it this way. That's usually how I do it by myself.
It's facing.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. All right, we are ready to go, you guys. This is Raeona. So recently, this lady went viral. She felt that she was oppressed on her to go down to the Justice Center in Portland, Oregon during one of the protests / riots / just general unrest events down there. And she stood before the crowd by herself, stood between them and the police, and implored the crowd to stop attacking the police and attacking the buildings. A pretty bold move. I know a lot of you guys saw that video that went viral, several videos of that. You guys have been begging me to get in touch with her and do an interview. I want to see what was on her heart for that. So let's just ask her a little bit about herself first. So are you from Portland? Did you grow up here? Is this your home?
Yeah, born and raised.
All right.
I'm a true Oregonian.
Right on. And I guess we'll just jump into, well, let's say hey to this guy. Who's this?
This is Zeus.
Zeus.
Yeah.
This is a lover puppy, sweet dog. So let's just jump into it. So you went down there, you stood in front of the whole crowd all by yourself. That was pretty ballsy. What made you want to do that?
I mean, I don't know. It was, well, I tell everybody, God, like I do a lot of prayer, I pray a lot, and I don't think that there's ever been a moment that I've thought that in life I would go down there just to go, because I want to go hang out with the protesters or the rioters, or just because it's something to do. I'm bored now. I'm sent on an agenda. I'm sent with an agenda, and that's to deliver a message. And I believe that in my heart of hearts, with my religion of being a Christian, that God created us in the image of Him, and that we all are equal in His eyes, and that we need not to have such hatred towards each other.
Yeah. So you went down there and you just trying to get the crowd to stop throwing things at the police and attacking buildings, or what was your goal specifically when you got down there? Just kind of just show up and see what happened?
Yeah, I mean, really just, there's no script, I mean, you see that's just who I am, and there's a whole lot of real, and I kept stuff like me trying to get up and down off that wall. I was like, okay, let's figure it out here. And surprisingly enough, they were all receptive to me, and would give me water and help me up and down, and hold my glasses, my phone, and all kind of stuff. So they were supportive of me when I got down there. I believe that I'm a strong believer in my Christianity, and I know that God goes there before I get there, and I believe that Jesus is a guardian angel that watches over me, because the things that have happened to so many people while there is unreal, and I'm surprised that nothing has happened to me, but I'm not surprised. I'm a child of God, and so I don't question well, is something gonna happen to me? I don't think about that. I don't feel scared in the moment of, if anything, I feel more confident and courageous then than I do like at an interview or something. Like it's more awkward, like, or I would say a little bit, I'm more shy doing interviews than I would be
Yeah.
trying to stop a riot or people protesting and trying to, beat up the police. And the reason why I think, I know I'm passionate about people coming together and not being so hateful towards the police, because not all officers are bad. Just like not all black people um, are bad, and not all white people that like black people are wrong. Like that's not. There shouldn't. I really wish I could change the perception of others, but I can't.
Yeah.
And I can accept that. And so that being said, like, I don't know. I'm really kind of disturbed, and I don't even want to talk about that. I really want to talk about the older ladies.
Yeah. She's mentioned right before our interview, we were talking about the ladies, the elderly ladies at the East Precinct the other night. One of them had a walker and she was trying to put out a fire in a trash can. She got accosted. And the other lady had it looked like a bucket of poster paint, white paint, glue, thrown all over her face, and they got accosted. She was actually down there with the Black Lives Matter sign to come down and support the movement. As far as I understand, she stood between the crowd and the police precinct in order to, one, to just the destruction, but also that the East Precinct is attached to a number of other buildings, and part of those buildings are housing, and I believe low-income housing, and a lot of elderly people live there. That whole neighborhood there is actually a pretty poverty-stricken neighborhood. There's low-income housing, there's some slum housing, there's some retirement villages and some nursing homes, and so that is quite the neighborhood to do that kind of thing in, if anywhere, Yeah, but you were saying you were pretty upset about just seeing that. Let me ask you, are you upset with just the violence and the destruction? Are you for any of the movement, or do you agree with the agenda of Black Lives Matter? How does all that affect you as a black woman living here in Portland, Oregon? What runs through your mind and all that? And everybody's saying that you speak from your heart and you speak with passion, and they like the way you're talking. So,
Thank you.
Little plus there.
So I support the fact that Black Lives Matter, and I know that how it started, right? The whole reason of that was we as black people were tired of being murdered by the police and there's nothing happening, right? And so essentially it was supposed to be created to stop the police brutality. And not only that, but like the hatred against one another. Like there's a lot of violence and hate within our own community. Like it's so unreal, and it's sad, but like to have a room full of black people 9 times out of 10, there's always going to be some type of confrontation against one another for their own belief or what they may wear, or one trying to outdo the other one, and somebody not quite meeting that mark. And there's always going to be a hierarchy and a better than. There's always going to be somebody less than, and people are going to be selfish and considerate and judgmental. And I believe that Black Lives Matter at one point was in the right direction, essentially. But like I said when I was talking to Steve at the last interview that we did on his show, when I had co-hosts with him.
She's shouting out this Freight Broker Live,
Mm-hmm.
PT News Network, is who she's referencing.
Right, and so I honestly I don't think that, I hate saying this, but it's the truth. I don't honestly think that it was created for us, meaning black people, for us black people. I don't think that the Black Lives Matter movement was created for the fact that Black Lives Matter. I believe it was created to build a platform for whoever had it at the time to get whatever they wanted done. And that was what they used it for, and that's what it's been used for, and that's why it's so easy to hijack it now and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So that being said, like you can have something with a good intent, and somebody try, like for example, you can't come to my house and take anything from me and say that it's yours, or anything that I'm doing, right, and say that you're doing it, and then ride off in the sunset and it's just gonna be all peaches and cream. I'm gonna put up a hell of a fight, but like this, what you see is in this box, like I was saying when I went live on my page yesterday, like, I don't, whatever you see in front of the screen is, I can dictate what you get to see, right? I get to control that. But at the end of the day, like, who I am as a person is something that's going to show regardless. I can wear as much makeup, I can dress in the finest outfits, I can hang out with a different group of people, but it's not going to, eventually it's going to seep out. It's not going to stay hidden for too long, right? So like, I feel the same way. That being said, with Black Lives Matter, they may have had the best intent. I need to get some water. They may have had the best intent to have things where, they're all together for one and everybody all for Black Lives Matter. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things to where I don't think that the people that started it really gave a darn in the first place.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean it in the heaviest way possible for you to understand that, because if it was something that was valued and treasured and held to their heart and dear and mattered to them like it is publicized, then why is it so hard for us to stay in control and come together in unity, and elderly people not get abused, nor officers or just innocent bystanders, Mm-hmm. So like, that's my...
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So you mentioned, from your perspective in life, you've seen a lot of struggles in your community, in the Black community, a lot of violence from inside and from without, and just a lot of difficulty. Mm-hmm. What makes you go the path of seeking religion and seeking a peaceful path, and to the point where you're standing up against the mob saying, let's stop this, versus a lot of people in that community that are, and I don't want to make the community seem like it's a monolith and one kind of thinking, because there are some of them out there. There's groups of Black Lives Matter out there trying to keep everything peaceful, but there's also some people that are just let the rage loose on their hearts, and they're out there just trying to destroy everything and hurt people. What made you go down your route?
Because I've been through hell.
Yeah.
I've been through pure hell.
I know.
And when I say that, like, I don't mean it in the lightest term. Like, I have been through hell, and I've...
Take your time. You just relax. Everybody's loving on you right now, so...
Like, to be in a place where I can't say I'm innocent. Like, I've inflicted pain on people unintentionally, some intentionally, throughout my adolescent years and adult years of growing up, trying to figure out who I am as an individual. Yeah. But you live life on life's terms, and I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't grow up in a 2-parent household. I didn't grow up where I was being told, you're such a pretty little girl and you're going to be so amazing. Like, I heard, in fact, the entire opposite. And what I realized is that as a parent myself, I had to check into a world from my childhood that was like a fairy tale world, but my reality, because that was what kept me alive and kept me out of the imprisonment of where my body and my mind constantly, my body was, but where my mind would try to stay. And in order for me to have found freedom and peace, I had to free my mind, and so no matter where I may be in life, no matter what my situation may physically look like, I know that I can mentally take it outside of that box and go anywhere I want to. And that's why I do this, because I know that outside these doors is a whole nother world, and that world is waiting to chew you up and spit you out. And if you don't have somebody at home that's encouraging you and telling you to do that, you're going to do good, telling you that you look nice, believing in you and wanting to help you, then you have nothing and you're screwed, And so I know that when I said that I want to do better, and if I could just clean the bathrooms in the church just to be close to God, I meant that. And so when I gave my life back to Christ, like I knew that no matter how humbling it will be, if I had to wash the feet of everybody I came across, to do so special. Everyone deserves to feel loved. All it hurt people, and people they say these little cliche things, and but they don't really listen to it or accept the fact that that's a reality. Life is cruel, and it's not fair. It's not something where when babies are born, it's like sometimes I want to just cry at the fact that they have been brought into this terrible world of just pure hate, envy, shame. Uh, it's yeah. I'll stop there. But like it's that's why I do this, because I have been through so much in life. I've been through things that no one could ever imagine at such a young age, and I know that the only way to change is to do something positive. The only thing that's not going to change is change. So if I want to earn my key to heaven, or if I want to continue to have things in life, and trust me, I'm not rich. I I'm not I'm rich in spirit,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm rich in personality, I'm rich in my melanin, I'm rich in, my dance rhythm, I'm rich in everything else, but spiritually I'm a billionaire, and I want people to know that they too matter. My son is going through some things, and sometimes I ask myself, like, how can I go out here and help other people in this world when I have so much stuff going on in my own life that I'm trying to keep together with my babies, and watching them when when they're little, you can hold them in your arms and you can rock them to sleep at night, and you can sing lullabies to them. If they get an owie, you can kiss it and make it feel better. But when they get to a certain age, you have to carry them in your heart, and it's not comfortable, and every act of kindness or everything nice that I do for someone, I do it with the intent, or with the hope and mindset of, please do this for my child. If you were to see him, if you see my brother walking down the street and out of his mind and not knowing his own name, take a second to do something kind for him. And so I do it with the intent of sowing a seed, and planting a seed, and knowing that I may not be able to see the outcome if it ends up growing and becoming a beautiful plant or not, but at least I did my part. So that's why I do what I do, and that's why I'm so affected by everything, because I can't just sit here with my thumb up my butt and not do anything. And it bothers me when I want to go out and physically defend people that can't defend themselves, and I can't, because I'm gonna put myself in a situation where then I won't be able to be here and do the things that I'm doing now. And so, like, to be put in a situation where I have to make that ultimatum of, do I go, do I stay, do I reach out and ask someone to help me, or like, I don't.
So there's a lot of people who have done some similar things to you. I don't know if you're familiar with the guy they call Brother Matthew. He's a white street preacher guy that gets beat up at these events every once in a while, and they beat on him pretty good. And we talked about the elderly ladies at the East Precinct the other day. And there's a handful of situations where people went down there for one or another reason or another to speak peace, or to try to stop violence, or just to give their voice a chance. And they've gotten, at worst, sometimes beat up pretty badly. And at the least, just got running out of there and no longer allowed to be in the area. What do you think was different about you, that they let you speak and they didn't beat you up and didn't attack you?
um like, I want to cry tears of joy, because I just got a revelation as you were just saying that, because I'm chosen. Many are called, but few are chosen. And for such a time like this, like, God had been training me all this time for a time like this. So when I go out there and I open up my mouth, I'm not going for Raeona. I'm not going because I want to get likes and I want people to follow me and I want attention. I'm going because I have a message from God, and that people need to know how he's weeping, like his heart is broken, like something he's invested into all of us, and as far as him making us an image of him, and we take it and we play with it and we disregard it and we take it for granted. Like tomorrow is never promised. The fact that you can get up and you can tie your shoes and you can walk to the bathroom and brush your teeth is a blessing. And so the fact that you are, the fact that people take it for granted is something that is so frustrating for me. And I do it myself. I do it all the time. And I'm not perfect, and neither, there's no one here on earth that's perfect, and in fact, scripture says that even the righteous among us are like filthy rags before him. And I'm not here to please someone's ears about if they don't want to hear about God and apologize for my Jesus, because I can't. I refuse to, and that's why I think that I am able to be as bold. I'm not saying I'm not touchable. Yeah, I can be touched. I'm human. If you cut me right now, I'll bleed just like you. And I'm not saying that I am so righteous in my walk with God that He's only protecting me, no one else. No, that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I am being obedient, and I'm being obedient when I'm supposed to, not when it's convenient. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, it may sound like a good idea for someone to go out and do the same thing that I've done or that I'm doing now, and I'm not going to discourage them not to do that, right? I encourage them to use wisdom. If they want to go out and try to stop it, then great, but you have to use wisdom. Yeah. Like, it's unfortunate that I wasn't there when the older lady was getting
accosted and dumped with glue. Yeah,
just abused.
Yeah.
That's abuse.
That's the right word, abuse. She was being abused.
She was being abused. That's elderly abuse. Yeah. And I'm so vivid because, like, dude, there's no gangster, there's no mob, there's no mafia, there's no brother, there's no sister, there's no nothing that could get stripes for sitting up there and allowing that. Because if you can't see it, you can hear. I heard, and I only watched the video for about maybe 15 seconds. Once I seen what was going on, it disturbed me to the point where I literally had to just like stop and do something.
A lot of people got pretty angry about that video. One thing you're saying right now, and we talked before, and I've talked to my audience about this, where I stand on Christianity. I'm not quite there. I believe in God, and I like the wisdom in the Bible and the philosophy in the Bible. I try to, when I find a nugget in there that's true, I hold on to that as much as I can. But what you were saying, I think, is the from my perspective, is the core of the Christian story, and the character of Jesus in the Bible just set his eyes on what he thought was good and what was supposed to be done, and he didn't focus on the outcome of his actions. He did it. So like what you're saying, you went down there and you did what you felt you should and what you felt was right, and you weren't worried. Sometimes people do that, and it's like Brother Matthew, and he gets pummeled, and sometimes you get down there and get to stand on a fence in front of hundreds of people, and you get away with your skin on your back still. So, but I think more people need to do what you're doing and stand up for what's right when they're personally convicted. Like you're saying, not everybody needs to go out and do what their neighbor's doing, do what Raeona's doing, but everybody needs to do what they're convicted to do that's good. And if everybody would do that, this violence and this chaos would end pretty quickly, I think, because there are a couple hundred people normally down there at the Justice Center, and there are more than 500,000 people in Portland alone, just within the city, so the numbers are on the side of the people that aren't wanting to destroy things.
At the end of the day, I have to accept that I cannot control anyone, and nor can you, nor can them. We can only change and fix things about ourselves. We can influence people, we can give advice, we can shine a little light here, we can give them a perception, a view from our perspective, and but at the end of the day, like, you are your own self. You are your own individual. You are completely responsible of making the decisions that you make. And what about when this is all over? One day this will end. One day everything that has a beginning has an end. Everything that starts ends. Everything that goes up must come down. Everything that goes forward goes backwards. It's the total yin and yang, day night. You know, whether they switch or stay on longer than the other one, or whatever, or however you may perceive it. Like everything has to come to an end. Everything must stop eventually, and everything will begin. So at some point, eventually, all this stuff, the protesting, the rioting, and the hate, the vandalism, the abuse, the anger, the rage, the resentments, the pain, it's gonna stop. Then what? Because I'm still gonna be me. I'm still gonna go out and do nice things for people. I'm still gonna show up when I can. I'm still gonna sit back and say, you know what? I'm not showing up for nobody today. I'm just gonna do me and sit here and not answer my phone. And guess what? I'm not gonna give an answer as to why I didn't, because I don't have to. It's no, and that's it. It's not an open-ended question. It's an answer, and the answer is no. And I have to. I don't know why like no just felt so good right then and there, but like I have to keep my mindset on the fact that this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I don't mean that lightly, because of the simple fact that people that have large platforms with like thousands and millions of subscribers and viewers and followers and, you know, chanters and whatever, this and that, and all of that right now is based around the negativity and the hate of one's perspective. And I don't like the fact that we are still losing sight of what's important right now. We need to vote. We need to actually have things on ballots. We need to make sure that things are being implemented. We need to make sure that we need to follow up on some stuff, right? Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that we wanted to see happen, but is anybody taking time to follow up on it and to make sure that those things are in order so therefore they can get passed or we can get the support that we need? And so that's something that I think people need to be really mindful of, is that you can't get so caught up in what's right in front of you, like you're in the forest and you can't even see the trees, right? And they're like right here.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just something to think about.
Can I ask you about the Black Lives Matter aspect of this and what's going on in the Black community? And there are a lot of people that are genuinely struggling in the community, and whatever we all agree politically or disagree politically, there are people that are hurting and trying to figure out what to do about that. What forward in the situation and alleviate the pain that so many of these protesters are down there. Some of them, let's assume that a good majority of them are not trying to commit the violence, but are down there with grievances, whether real or misinformed, but people are hurting nonetheless. And how do you think that that community that's come together so much to create this slogan, Black Lives Matter, how can they help themselves and help the community move forward?
Have an agenda. Know what you're out there for. Like, you can say all day that you're out there representing Black Lives Matter and that you're for Black Lives Matter, but what is Black Lives Matter? I'm brown, first of all, not black. So let's start there. Second, I know that. Some people don't know that about themselves. And that's one thing that, like, I try to get people, I want people to see that, like, the best thing that you can do is to make sure that you stand for something so you don't fall for anything. That means that the homeboy Floyd shouldn't have got murdered, just like all the other black people that were murdered by officers should not have died by the hands of another officer who's sworn to protect, right? Because that excuses all of that. So with that being said, that means that now that there's a platform, because we've built this huge entire platform nationwide, that Black Lives Matter, let's tear up some stuff in the states and the cities nationwide so people can see what it feels like to hurt and to mourn and to not have and to be scared to get approached by somebody who's supposed to be in a superior, right, in control, and they've abused their power. That's what this is about. And in order to see that those things follow through, so this stays authentic and more Afrocentric, is to know that you cannot just open up your mouth and say nothing. You cannot go to an event and do nothing. When you go, you have to go with an agenda. When you're protesting, protest with an agenda. You know that you're down here protesting. Okay, so what you're protesting for? Have you seen any of those things that you're interested in changing? Change. Have any of those officers been charged, arrested, trialed, held accountable at all?
Let's talk about that for a second. Let's pick one of those, and since it's the hot topic at the moment and what all sparked this off, let's talk about George Floyd. Before I start giving all kinds of ideas and thoughts, and we look at information, what is your perspective on that incident that happened? And first off, did you watch the original video?
No.
You didn't watch the video?
No.
Have you seen the body cam that was released just the other day?
No, I've seen some footages of George Floyd and what happened, and I've heard a lot and from our different artists and stuff like that. I've heard audios of him saying that he can't breathe. I've read a couple articles, but I don't, things like that I can't allow to myself to get too far into for too long of a clip. Like I can only do 15 seconds. I already know it's gonna happen, what's gonna play out. I can hear it, and that's enough for me because I'm a very descriptive. My brain is very, very active, and so when I hear something, I can paint the picture exactly as it is, if not more detailed. So I don't need to go and watch the footage. It's messed up. It's terrible. It's devastating, right? And so I don't want to take away from George Floyd and his family. May God bless them. It is sad, and there was nothing about that, right? There's nothing about what happened in that incident, right? I don't get to dictate what happened and give my perception of was that wrong and was this really real and did he really beg it? All that's irrelevant. At the end of the day, this is a black man that died behind the hands of a white man that felt as though he could sit there with his knee on this man's neck for 8 minutes and 26 seconds and everybody else stand around with their hands in their pockets and not do anything.
So a couple things about that. You use the and I'm gonna dialogue here to get your perspective as much as possible.
Right,
so this isn't a gotcha or anything like that.
Yeah.
So the hands in their pockets, that's a myth. If you watch the video, they have black gloves on and their black pants, and when they put their hands on their pants, sometimes they look like they have their hands in their pockets. But if you really examine the video, that's they don't have their hands in their pockets.
Did they have their hand on his knee trying to remove it off his neck?
No.
Okay, so therefore, to me, theoretically, they had their hands in their pockets. They could have been sitting on them. They could have had them in their head. They could have held them up, crossed their fingers, and just sat there and watched. To me, then that's where culturally people start. That's where the controversy starts too, because everybody has their own perception.
Because that's what we want to do here. We want to have that dialogue, and we want to talk this out, and not just have one person coming to their emotional assumption and another person coming to their emotional assumption, and conversation never happening. So this is the kind of thing that needs to happen right now, and it's so tense that it's hard to have it happen. Nobody will talk about the details and share their perspective on what happened. Let me give you some of my perspectives I've seen, and after watching the body cam come out the other day, one thing I noticed is that before anybody had ever laid hands on George, he was claiming he can't breathe when he was sitting in his car.
Yeah.
And he was already calling out for his mom before anybody had laid hands on him when they came up to the car. He seemed to be clearly in a different state of mind. Some of the toxicology reports say that he was on fentanyl and I believe methamphetamine at the same time.
And do you know what fentanyl can do to the body?
Yeah, it can jack your heart rate up really bad. Now, autopsy also said that he had something, I can't say what was specific, but there was an issue with his carotid artery, which was where the knee was on his neck. And I'm gonna come to the other side too. So he was in a situation where
Wait, time out. So you've gotten this information from where now?
You can watch the videos. The body cam footage was just released the other day, and then the original camera phone video of the spectators. It was leaked. I believe it was the Daily Mail in the UK. Somebody took a cell phone and recorded the video being played on a computer, and they leaked it. So just a couple of days ago, it got released. You can watch the video. But so then they get him out of his car and they try to get him into the police car. He's resisting, and he's claiming that he's claustrophobic, and I think that he's having.
He's claiming that he's claustrophobic.
Yeah, he says he's claustrophobic.
Have you been behind the police car before?
Oh, I'm not trying to judge this right now. I'm giving some
I'm
facts.
I'm asking questions though, just to kind of.
I have been in the back of a police car
Okay.
before, but and then they finally get him in the police car, and he kind of wiggles and he pops out the other door on the other side of the car and falls down on the ground. And he's kind of in an altered mental state. You can tell he's kind of on some drugs or having a panic attack, and he says he just wants to lay on the ground, lay on the ground, lay on the ground. And it seems like he's resisting a little bit. And that's when the 3 officers get on him while he's on the ground.
Hold him down for what?
Party, so I think he doesn't get away. And
Where was he gonna go? He wanted to lay on the ground.
Okay, but they were trying to hold him out. Partly, I think it was just to calm him down because he was kind of freaking out. But then that's when the main officer put his knee on his neck, and then one of the things I think is the most disgusting thing about that whole situation isn't just that the guy had his knee on his neck, but it's a total of like 9 minutes he got his knee on the neck. But at about 6 minutes roughly, Floyd stops moving. He does not seem conscious. He does not seem to be responding in anything, and nobody checks his pulse. Nobody does anything to see if he's okay or to acknowledge that he's gone unresponsive. And then he stays on him for another 3 minutes. So I think that almost everybody in the country, as divided as we're all going to be on the different facts, at that point, everybody is completely disgusted there because he was unconscious and the guy's just still digging his knee into his neck. And then before that is where the discussion, I think, needs to happen, and everybody needs to share.
I mean, my thought is that everybody's point of view on how they feel about what happened before is completely irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you why.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not him.
Yeah.
They're still walking, they're still breathing, they're still amongst the living. He had already been shot at before like that, because I believe he did say that in one of his in one of the videos, like, I got shot like this before or something like that.
That was the body cam footage. When they came up to the car, he
Right.
says he wants his mom. He says he doesn't want to get arrested. And he
Right.
says he kept saying to the officer, "Please don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me." He said he's
Yeah.
been shot before by a cop.
So I know that there is nothing that I can say. There's not one picture that you can paint or anybody else that would, in any way, shape, form, or fashion, help my brain conjure the fact that their opinion matters to that particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't. There's still kids growing up without a father. There's still another black man that died behind the hands of a white man that was in control, in power, in authority, right? And no matter how it's viewed, no matter how they try to alter footage, and I'm sorry, with today's modern technology, if you were not there at that moment to see with your own eyes, you can't even trust the footage that comes out, that's leaked, that's whatever. My cousin died and was shot in the chest by a security guard. Okay?
Here in Portland?
Here in Portland.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And so for me, and I still back the blue, right? So, but let me say this, don't get it twisted, because I'm not gonna ever in life find that it is okay, near remotely at all cute, fashionable, or anywhere near organized or criticized or conserved or conservative or any of that matter. I don't give a darn who it is, why. It's not okay, and I'm never, ever, ever going to support it. Ever. I don't think racial jokes and subliminals are funny. I don't find it funny to call people out of their names. I don't find it, and that's on both ends. Do you get what I'm saying?
I think everybody is against what happened to George Floyd.
But just him, though.
And
the reason why it's just him is because it was actually that raw and that bad and that obvious that they can't turn a blind eye and say that that wasn't wrong.
Well, it's just one thing at a time. If we were to talk and look at a different situation, and it was similar to this, I think people would be disgusted by it too. But the thing about not being able
Or
to
not.
not being able to have an opinion on it is that that can't happen right now. The whole country is in turmoil, and it sparked off because of that. And that's what the discussion is about going through the country today.
It's not about the opinion of it. It's the fact of the matter is that people, black people, and white people that are not racist or uh, that rock with black people or support the fact that all lives matter, however they want to view it. Back in the day, they used to call them the N-word lovers, right? So like anybody that rocked with black people or supported them or helped them out at all, they were frowned upon too, just because you're kicking it with them, right? And so at the end of the day, their opinion still doesn't matter to me, and that's me, because their opinion is not going to bring this man back to life. Their opinion is not going to stop the next officer that is in authority and abuses their privilege, their privileged position to do whatever they want. And it starts off small and it gets bigger. And it goes from, okay, well, you're going to do this because you have to do it. I'm telling you to do it. I'm not saying that, yeah, we need to, because here's the thing. Now that we've gotten our point across, right, that, yeah, we're mad about George Floyd. Do you not know how many other people before George Floyd died in a way worse situation, and it was never publicized and made such of a huge deal like his? Like it was like as though, and he wasn't. I mean, I'm not to be. I was talking to my cousin yesterday. We just had this conversation about him because I had watched this Dave Chappelle 8 minutes 26 seconds thing that he has on Netflix, and it was frustrating for me because I was like, I never had really heard of this guy before, and I didn't know he was out there in the community like that and doing such great work or was well known. Like, it's unfortunate because I'm thinking, man, you see, I don't have a TV in the house for a reason.
Who are you talking about?
I don't watch TV. George Floyd. But like, I was talking about how my cousin and I were talking about how I had never heard of this person before that day. Does that make sense? It was like Michael Jackson or Usher Raymond or Barack or whoever, somebody that's well known. I didn't know that he was such a big factor. But then it was like, no, he doesn't have to be. He's a child of God. Like he was created and he was put on this earth like you were and I am. And so why not him? But everybody, this is like it's enough. Like we're at that mark of saying, okay, I'm tired.
So taking the knee on the neck and
that
one.
My mouth is dry because of the medication I take, so I'm constantly fighting and battling cotton mouth. But the fact that the autopsy report was revealed, I wouldn't care if he had crack, meth, fentanyl, sherm, heroin, whippets, oxycontins, Vicodin, whatever you can possibly think of, you can put in your system to change your mood and mind altering as a substance is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that that is a human being that was murdered. And where is this officer at now?
I believe he's in jail.
Is he?
Yes.
There's facts. There's evidence of that, right? Because now we still have a trial that needs to happen because is he fighting it? We still have charges that need to be actually charged. He needs to be actually charged and sat down, and things need to be, the book needs to be shut and closed, because we haven't even touched on the fact that there are still black people that are alive that have been murdered and still walking around, like people that have been put in jail wrongfully, right?
Yeah.
And did time that they didn't have to do, or the length of time that was stolen from them, all behind the fact of a judge saying that this black person doesn't deserve to see the light of day again for something so minute, whereas another Caucasian person can do it and walk but not even considered arrested. And it's unfortunate. I was sitting at a place, I was at my god brother's house, and I was sitting in my car getting ready to drive home, and these officers drove by and shined a light in my eyes, and I'm like, wow, that was rude. Like, hello, you clearly see that I just turned on my headlights and sitting here. I'm like, do you not know who I am? Like, not everybody knows who I am, but that's okay. I know who I am, right? So I'm like, oh, they must not know that this is me, And so I'm like, well, goodness. And then And he was like, well, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I was like, yeah, that was awfully rude. And he was like, yeah, well, we're looking for someone. And I was like, okay. And he made the comment of, you keep your eyes open. Well, I can't when you're blinding me like that with the light, you know. But like, I just laughed it off. But it's those little condescending or subliminal messages that are thrown out there like it's funny, and then it's like, well, one small thing like that though leads to a bigger thing and a bigger thing and a bigger thing, and that's where I was saying at the protests and the riots that have gone to straight hell is that you can't keep poking the bear. When you sit up there and you go downtown and you want to throw pee and you want to throw feces and God knows whatever else comes to mind over the fence and disrespect officers, then you put as someone who is honestly, I would say, square, right, and with a pure heart that has no intent on killing a black person, right? Let's just saying. Now you've put somebody who's innocent in a predicament to cause them to sin because now you're pushing them to that point of responding or reacting to what your actions are, excuse me, and your behaviors. So you're making it even worse. And not only that, but we have this situation to where I've been in places and it's so frustrating because you can see it on some people's face like, oh God, here we go again with this Black Lives Matter crap. Like, it shouldn't be that.
Yeah,
We need to recognize the fact that, yeah, Black lives do matter. And we can't ignore the fact that, yeah, we have been looked over for so long and disregarded. At the same time, there is so much stuff that we can be implementing now and not like give your flowers to people while they're alive before they die kind of thing, and like all that la 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 garbage is that something at the end of the day it has some type of value to it, and we have to see that we can't get so caught up in the details and the opinions because opinions and people's perception is something that we're always going to have as long as we have breath in our body and a brain to think.
Let me ask you this before we get too far onto a trail off a different topic. So let me say about Eric Garner. He was the one in New York City that was selling Lucy cigarettes on the corner, and then the cops came because he was illegally selling single cigarettes, and they used force on him, and they ended up tackling and taking him to the ground. And he was the original guy that said, "I can't breathe," and he ended up dying from that. And so I have a problem with that. Like
the original kind.
The original guy that says, "I can't breathe." That's where that saying came from, you know. And,
so,
but
that's where it came from.
Yeah, Eric Garner. He's that's where that was popularized because that's what he was saying during his arrest and when they were taking him down when he died.
Said it because he thought about that.
I'm not saying Floyd said the same thing, but that's why that phrase rings in people's minds so much because years ago Eric Garner said that and it was publicized pretty big. But so I have a hard time with the fact that they used force to the extent that somebody died because he was selling cigarettes. Like that seems far beyond overkill. I can't even think of a word to describe that. Like, but then that brings up the issue of when there is a law being broken and somebody doesn't comply with the enforcement of that law, how do we deal with that? So in the situation of George Floyd, let's set aside that we agree that the way he was handled and the way that he was manhandled and that brought around his death was disgustingly wrong. But how would you suggest that how can we brainstorm in society and come to a way to deal with things when somebody is driving around high as a kite in a car and they're not cooperating with the officer that tries to arrest him?
That's your opinion.
How do we deal with, well, let's say a hypothetical situation. Let's say that a person is, let's say a hypothetical situation, let's make up one. How would a cop deal with that situation?
How would they do that?
How could society deal with that situation when someone's
society deal with that?
Yeah, how do we handle that situation?
Because they are an individual living in society, that means that you treat them like a human being.
Well, what I'm saying,
and that means that if you feel as though that you don't have the credentials to deal with someone who is struggling with substance abuse, which is the disease of addiction, it is a disease. It's not a choice, right?
Right? We're not here debating that right now.
We're going there.
No, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. So he's got an issue. Let's say somebody is.
Together, but we can't talk together.
Let's say somebody is high on LSD and they are driving down the road and a cop tries to stop them because they're driving dangerous. Yeah, how does society deal with that?
Brains out because they can't get them to
we're
stop.
agreed on that. We're agreed on that.
Why don't they take?
How do we deal with that though?
First aid.
Yeah.
That's a training that's offered to help people and to teach them ways and techniques on how to stop those types of things that behavior. It's an action. You have somebody that is under the influence of a mood and mind altering substance.
Mm-hmm.
That says it for itself,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have an individual who allegedly is not under a mood and mind altering substance, well, at least is not supposed to be, but you don't know what anybody is doing nowadays, and you can't never say yes or no because you don't know, you're not them until you get an autopsy or you, hey.
And so my point in this
So,
question, just to be
you're
clear,
gonna let
is
me finish.
yeah, I am, but I want to clarify my question. So my point is to keep the stupid things from happening, and
You're gonna
the
let me
excessive
finish
force from going
because
that
we're gonna
far.
go back
How do
because you
we?
can't
How do
paint
we?
the picture like how you want to with the question and then interrupt me when I'm answering it how I want to. So I'm gonna finish answering it, and if it's not the way and it doesn't come out and it's not making sense or it didn't answer your question, then we'll re-answer the question with you asking the question all
Okay.
over again. So when it comes down to an officer or anyone for that matter, a police officer, a firefighter, a good Samaritan, trying to stop someone, because there is a such thing as a citizen's arrest, meaning that a citizen can go in and actually help arrest a person if they see that they need to do so or whatever. They want to be Captain America, by all means, have at it. But know what you're signing up for in case they flip out and whip your behind. You can't be mad because you put yourself in that situation.
I agree.
So that being said, when we have law enforcement and primarily this Portland, Oregon, okay, we have a lot of people here that partake in drugs, all types of drugs. A drug is a drug is a drug. Anything that you consume out of moderation can now become too much, right? So the fact that they're under the influence and they're driving around recklessly and they're not being rational doesn't give anybody the right to, one, disrespect them, two, state their opinion, three, treat them anyhow, and four, do whatever they want to do.
Right,
In
definitely
fact,
agreed.
that's
Definitely
the
agreed.
complete opposite. It's best that they find some type of way to not be biased, to not have an opinion, to not be judgmental, and to be as educated and trained in all areas as possible, because you know that you're an officer in an area demographically where people are under the mood and mind altering substance of certain particular drugs that you may show up on the scene and they may have overdosed. Are you going to have an attitude because you have to stop and use another medication to bring them back to life, to stop them from overdosing? Or are you going to be upset at the simple fact that somebody is clearly drunk and they're laughing and they find it funny that they are walking down the street naked and all traffic has stopped? I mean, and on it too, meaning that they exaggerate some things. It's to dumb down the fact that, oh, well, they don't deserve that because they're an addict, or they don't deserve this because they had this in their system. That's all irrelevant. I wouldn't give a darn if he did or didn't have drugs in his system, or anyone for that sake. It doesn't matter. It matters when it comes to a point where they're completely out of control and they need help. Yeah, okay, well, if you're not able to stop this person and help them, then why don't you take a step back and go get some help and accept the fact that you are not qualified and able to deal with that individual. But I'm going to tell you something that a lot of people don't know is that there are a lot of mental health issues, mental health diagnoses that people struggle with that actually can come across as somebody being, like, for example, somebody that has multiple personalities disorder and schizophrenia, right?
Yeah.
That person and the way and a manic state, right? So having those two diagnoses in a manic state, meaning it is at a heightened moment where it can't get any worse, right, for them mentally. That can come across like somebody who's been smoking dope for 7 days straight and hasn't slept.
Yes,
And
sir.
it's not up for you to dictate to say, yes, it's just their mental health, or no, this is actually them on drugs, because that's not for you to make that call. You're not a medical representative, you are an officer, and you need to stay in your lane. And when you get people that cross lanes like that don't know what they're doing, and they don't have the jurisdiction to be over here in the first Heimlich maneuver, and they're doing back thrusts on a grown adult when they're supposed to be doing the Heimlich.
Or when people do CPR on somebody who's breathing.
Right.
Yeah,
Or,
it just
yeah,
it hurts
exactly.
them. Yeah.
Exactly. And there we go. Enough said.
Yeah, so I agree with everything you're saying. So I'm looking for your perception on how do we deal with those situations
I just
where
told you.
when Can you clarify?
Training.
You just think the officers need to be trained more?
I think that, yeah, anybody needs to train more. If you don't know how to deal with someone who's having a mental health breakdown or a crisis situation with their mental health, or if they're on drugs and they are out of their mind, and yeah, you need to get some training around that. There are trainings that are available. Do you know there's a training called trauma-informed care and a certification? Those are my two favorite trainings.
Tell us about these.
Those trainings, so trauma-informed care is a training that is done where basically it goes back into, there's two forms of it. There's one that's more culturally specific, where it goes all the way back into the depth of where ancestrally, our history as far as with our ancestors and how we have grown up till today's age and how we interact with our kids like that. Get over here right now. Sit down. Like all of that, and knowing why people are like that and where the post-traumatic stress disorder comes from, how to interact with them, how to help and relate and have empathy and not overstep your boundaries, and then how to take a step back and allow them to process and not interrupt them and allow them to, close it, or you close it so that way they have the proper closure that they need. Identifying that, okay, this person is clearly, like for example, with George Floyd, he obviously felt triggered when the police showed up. It made him, he was already under the influence, right? So
what do you mean by that? Is your perception that he was not under a drug, or that he was having was he having what was your perception? Do you think he was having a drug influence or like a mental health crisis situation?
I'm staying back on the fact that you just asked me the question about the trauma-informed care trainings, right? So I'm using this particular situation with George as an example, right? Because this was something that we just talked about. So that being said, it was mentioned, right, that he was on drugs. He had these items in his system.
The autopsy shows that he had drugs in his system, and then the video shows that he was in a different state of mind. He wasn't in a calm, normal.
The video showed that. What does a different state of mind look like?
I think if wanted to, we could watch the video and you could give your opinion on that. But I think people are pretty much in a consensus that he wasn't acting like a grown man in that video. He seemed to be a little bit distorted.
What I'm saying is, regardless what you may see in perception, because I don't know what somebody not being in their right state of mind looks like. I don't know what that is. That's like saying that's normal. What's normal? What's perfect? Your perfect and my perfect are two different things. Your right state of mind and mine are two different things. And honey, let me tell you, because my right state of mind is definitely not going to be yours.
Yeah, but there is a parameter. Like when you get on the bus and there's a person talking to a person that's sitting next to him but isn't there, only he can see them. We can agree that situations like that are kind of extreme human behavior that might not be considered healthy. And yeah, everybody's going to be a little bit different, but there are certain things that when we see someone talking to themselves in public really angrily, we can easily see in a situation like that something's not going right. And it's not everything is able to be seen that easily, but certain things we can.
Stuff I do.
No, you're not giving yourself credit. Well, you did stand up in front of a crowd. You did stand up in front of a violent crowd and yell at them.
I talk to myself.
But you know that's different than the person having a full conversation with nobody there on the street. That's different. No, I'm giving a different example of how you can sometimes see people's mental state, and it's visible.
But we were talking about specifically George at the time.
And I think a lot of people will agree that the body cam footage when he's acting strangely.
Okay. I would too if I had that crap in my system and the police rolled up on me and they
I'm not trying to judge the situation. I'm not trying to condemn him and make him seem evil or whatever.
No,
my question is, how do we interact with the person?
This is trauma-informed care at its finest right now. Like the fact that really bothers you. I can tell.
Well, the question is we can all agree that what happened to him shouldn't have happened. But how do we interact with a person like that in society? How do we safely interact with it? Obviously, we can all just say, oh, he shouldn't have put his knee on his neck, and everybody's going to agree on that. But that doesn't actually help us move forward and figure out what actually to do in the situation. Because if we just get emotional...
People aren't willing to find out what to do.
I know.
Told you.
We got to have that.
You weren't even trying to entertain that long enough to jump back onto the fact of what people aren't doing. I just gave you 2 good trainings and tried to explain one, but you kept interrupting that one to go back to what people aren't doing. So I'm like, well, fuck, forget it.
So you think just giving the cops those 2 trainings? But you also mentioned...
I think that those 2 trainings would be definitely beneficial with the demographics that we have here.
Yeah.
You know, people that are not aware of what post-traumatic stress disorder is. You don't have to be a veteran coming home from a war to have PTSD.
True. A lot of people have that.
The people that are, what triggers me may not trigger you. And what may trigger me may put me in a mental health spiral and react something completely different than you or anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's all tailor-made to individual. It's all case by case. You can't take this, and that's the problem. Stop trying to put things in this cookie cutter crack theory of what it should be, because not everything is always going to make sense and be in this format of how you want it. That's a obsessive compulsive mindset of having things in order and straight and precise and, you know, neat and perfect at all times.
Do you think that the cops should just have those trainings, or do you think, like you mentioned a moment, just real briefly, maybe a mental health counselor should be with them? Is that what you were saying, or?
Is that what I said?
You mentioned mental health counselors real quick.
One thing and being condescending is another. So figure out your questions and how you're asking them, because if you're trying to reflect to shoot another question as a shot.
No, I'm genuinely asking. So do you think that the officers should have those mental health training, or do you think they should have a mental health professional with them?
What did
I say? I'm not quite sure how you mentioned it, but you
said it 3 times.
I'm trying to have a back and forth with you. I'm trying to have a dialogue with you.
But
you know?
when you interrupt me, you can't hear what I'm saying because you're busy responding. And if you're anxious to respond, then you're going to cut me off because you want to get off what now you're thinking about what you're going to say in response to what I just said. So, 1, yes, it's definitely important for all public representatives, from law enforcement all the way down to the neighbor's house. Anyone in this world that wants to interact with people within the community, knowing that they have in their job, first of all, if it's your job to protect and serve, you need to have mental health trainings, you need to have alcohol and substance abuse trainings. There's no reason why there shouldn't be substance abuse trainings and mental health trainings along with the physical, combative, or whatever type of, you know, armor, protective, and, you know, self-defense trainings and stuff like that. All that needs to coincide together. There shouldn't be one without the other.
Yeah.
Period. If you want to be out in the community interacting with people, I just shared on my page yesterday a cheerleader who was in the middle of a parade and they were doing their little drill, and she looks across in the audience and sees a woman frantically screaming, "Help me, my baby's choking," and the mother didn't know how to do CPR. I mean, the Heimlich maneuver. So she jumps off and does her little twirl and hops over there, picks up the baby, pretty good back thrust, and up comes a piece of candy, and now she saved the day. And it started because her mother was a medical administration personnel, and she wanted to participate in those trainings of CPR and first aid, and look, she was able to use it. Absolutely. But then again, she had the training and just didn't sit on it. You get what I'm saying? Like, she had the knowledge of how to go and save that child's life and got up and did something about it. She didn't have knowledge and just sat there to see who was going to do it, or let me see how this plays out. Let me analyze this for a minute here and make sure that they're doing it right. And and then state her opinion. No, she took action. You know, like when I get up and I walk out these doors, I know for a fact that my intent is not to leave this house and harm anyone. My intent when people come into my house is to welcome them warmly and to make sure that when they come in here that they leave feeling blessed or encouraged or enlightened or motivated in some way, shape, form, or a fashion. And if not, then we need to sit down and take a look at some stuff and to see as to why not. Because at that point now, what are you doing here? Because there's no reason why you can't take something positive away from anything. Now that's me going off on a whole nother tangent, but neither here nor there. Yes, to answer your question one more time, just to recap. No, they don't have, I don't think that it's appropriate for them to have a mental health representative next to them while they're doing their out in the field on, doing their tasks and stuff like that. If they feel as though they need the support, then please be humble enough to say, yes, I would prefer a mental health representative working side by side with me. What I do want, and this is what I was talking to a couple of the Portland police officers about, I wanted to implement this because this would have been phenomenal. I wanted to design my own position within the Portland Police Department, and I wanted my position to be a community liaison and advocate, where what needs to happen is that, and this is my opinion, however, there were a few officers that agreed that when we have, say for example, we can't overwork one person. So if there's an officer that needs, like, say they did an arrest and they arrested a black, yellow, Puerto Rican, Asian, Dominican, it doesn't matter. They arrested a woman who had kids at home, and the mother was on drugs, and the husband had just beat her, and she had, stabbed him, and all this whatever, all hell broke loose. She goes to jail. The kids are at home now getting taken by CPS. There should be some type of like a job description where somebody sits in, they go in, they follow up with the family, they see to it that they're okay, they make sure that they get the supports that they need within the community, and then not only that, but the person that was arrested, if they were released, when they're released, there is a social worker or advocate that follows up with them to make sure that they need and they have the things that they need in order to be successful to not go back to jail. Those are the things I feel like could make a huge difference with bridging the police and the community together, as well as supporting and helping those that have been to jail and are struggling, because 9 times out of 10, they're not out just shoplifting because of the hell of it. There's something more to it than that as to why they got caught shoplifting. Why are they shoplifting in the first place, right? So getting down to the root of the problem and not just slapping a Band-Aid on it and saying, oh, call it a day, that's it. No, it's more to it than that. And I think that that's something that we need to be more mindful of. I don't see it that officers are going to have time to sit up there and call every single person that they've seen and had an encounter with today at work to follow up to make sure that they got the community resources and referrals that they needed, but there should be someone that is. I think that that would be a great thing, and I think that's something that we can all focus on, and it's positive. And guess what? It's not beating up old people, and it's definitely not wasting time.
We can agree on that. So, do you plan on doing more activism? Are you going to go down and shout at the protesters again, or do you have?
I never plan on going when I go.
Yeah.
I do got this itch and desire, urge to go do something very kind, and I have a burning desire to go do something over in that area where that older lady, I keep calling her older lady, I wish I knew her name, but I want to go out and do something, whether if it's plant flowers or try to, I don't know, it seems like that's a smaller cleanup task than the one downtown, but now there's 2.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And can I say that too? I'm gonna cross my arms on this one.
Let's hear it.
I might do a little finger and a little head, but I'm a little annoyed at the fact that people have time of day to go downtown and wreak hell, cause havoc, tear up stuff, vandalize crap, do all kinds of stuff. But nobody has the time to invest in doing anything positive to clean it up. Can you imagine how many people are down there at night protesting, wandering the streets, tearing up stuff, vandalizing, beating up? I mean, it's really, and this is where I wonder, like, at what point are they really just gonna say enough is enough? I might never get the answer, so I think I'm gonna stop asking that question, because I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. it's unfortunate, but I really, really wish that people would invest more time into doing positive things, because you can still get your point across and protest and be this big tough person and still clean up the garbage that you created. Like, I don't see, there's nothing, or just not do it at all. Like, why is it that spray painting the buildings is going to get your point across with somebody not getting killed or murdered by a police officer? I don't understand that. How is it that you streaking down the courthouse and all up and through the Justice Center, or trying to burn innocent people alive in a building, is truly getting your point across for saying that somebody else's lives matter, and the fact that they haven't mattered all this time because of the color of their skin is ridiculous. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. And at what point are people going to stop sitting up there looking for something in return all the time? Like, why can't you just do something for someone and not expect something in return? It's like, okay, so yeah, it doesn't benefit you, so you're not going. Oh, you don't get off on that, so you can't go help. Like, I don't get it. I really don't. When people are so busy trying to film it and show it and feed it, it's like that has to stop. Once people stop filming the crap that's going on down there, once people stop giving it the energy to thrive, it will begin to slow down. I know that a child, once they see their parent walk in the door, all of a sudden here comes the theatrics and the whole water, whatever they want, the master manipulators have arrived, right? But once they're gone, it's like, oh, okay, now the show's over. Try that and see how it works. I don't know, because the moment I think that peace has reigned, I have been completely wrong. So I am done with that part. I just know that at the end of the day, there's got to be some things that we have to start doing differently. And one is stop wasting time on such negative stuff and start investing in more positive things.
I agree. I've watched the riots, and one thing that strikes me how much energy they put into that stuff, and if all those people put all that energy into something positive, like our society would be such a different place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, Trish, she says that I'm being very disrespectful to Villain. He is not a combative interviewer, and she should give him the respect he deserves.
It's one of your friends?
3 likes. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect. That sounds like a great idea. What is going on in Portland? Oh, Villain, let me take a second and apologize.
No, I go in these things on purpose and try to create dialogue that's pretty rough and it's hard to happen. And, I put myself in these places.
I see that. Let me say this. So, Trish, I apologize for offending you in the way that I'm interacting with Villain during my interview. I am interacting with you, and I wasn't hostile.
It's heated discussion. It's hard. It's
right.
hard to talk about these things.
Emotionally.
Yeah. It's a heated discussion. That's
right.
That's what my goal is.
Yeah.
We gotta have these hard discussions because, like you're saying, you can just stay at home and not do anything, and nothing's gonna change. But we have to have this difficult discussions in order to move forward. Because like I was saying, we can just say that was horrible what happened to Floyd, but we got to figure out how to deal with that situation so it doesn't happen again.
There's a difference, though, and Trish, this is what I'm gonna tell you, and I want you to understand this, and I really appreciate the fact that you have been my friend for all of maybe a couple weeks, and I appreciate your friendship. However, this is a discussion that we are having, and I'm going to talk to you guys too, because I have to give the respect to the fact that
get 2 audiences here.
Right. At the end of the day, this is a conversation with a Caucasian male and a African American female that are talking about racial diversity and issues and what that looks like. So sometimes there are going to be questions, or there may be answers and responses that may not hit right with the other person and could maybe ouch a little bit. and then there's an oops, right? So oops ouch is something that we use in corporate jobs and nonprofit organizations as well. Like if your colleague offends you, say ouch, and then they say oops. It's a quick way to say, oh, that offended me, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, and move on, right? So that's kind of really personable about it because of the simple fact that I know what it's like to be black here. And as much as we want to paint this picture about it's not an issue or we don't want to look at it, the reality is that yes, black people have died behind the hands of officers that have misused and abused their privileges. Does that mean I'm going to ride on that till the cows come home? Absolutely not. That does mean that I'm going to hold people accountable. If you are in an authority position, you need to act as though you are in an authority position. That does not give you the dictatorship to play God. You don't get to sit up there and kill someone and then have this controversy later on about what their perception was and what their opinion is, because at the end of the day, there's a life that is no longer here. They were creators and decided to do whatever they want or however they wanted to. So we can't disregard that. That's my reality, right? So yeah, I get a little heated when I have conversations like this because why? I know what it's like to be black. And that's what I say that we have to, yeah, my intent is to stop and I back the blue, I sure do, but I also will tell an officer too, hold on now, honey, wait down. Just because I back the blue don't mean that you can just disrespect me in any kind of way. It's a give-take relationship, right? So we have to be mindful of what that looks like, whether you're in an authority position or not. And that's why I was so livid at the fact that when So Lunar had his whole, because that's how I seen the video of the older lady getting abused, was when he went on there and tried to apologize and all this stuff. And in my world, I'm looking at something I see that was not. Sometimes you can say I'm sorry, and that's great to go and make an amends. But if that person is not there for you to make the amends to, you can't make the amends. So it doesn't work. That doesn't count. You can't do that. That's not how it goes, right? And so yeah, we can apologize to the people that saw it, but at the end of the day, the person that needs to hear it cannot hear it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so now we have another person who has this huge platform, which is just as big as someone with an authority figure as an officer, right? That filmed something like that didn't see what was going on, but maybe could have heard, maybe not. I don't know. I wasn't there. I know what I heard from watching what little bit I did see. And I know that it didn't sound right nor look right. And we have to be mindful on these platforms to not just be people pleasers. I don't want a yes man. I don't want someone to sit here and ask me the same questions over and over again. I like the diversity in pulling at some, strings that need to be tugged just to get some answers, because if you don't, I may not even answer them. You know what I mean? So like asking those hard questions that people don't always ask are the ones that are better to answer. And that's what I like about you, is you have the courage to do so. That at what point did I ever think like, oh, I want to just punch him in the face? No, not at all. But I definitely got a little rusty around like, okay, yep, the interruption is definitely going to be the end of all things. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, but I am queen to do it, and I have to work on that. But when there's a serious like tone that's been set, I feel like, okay, there's no room for that. Like, we need to figure out how we're going to do this here, because that's not going to work. And I'm very stubborn, and that's where that's at. And so, see if you are even still on here or not. But, yeah, moving right along. My big brother's watching. Okay, so.
Well, do you have any platforms you want to shout out before we end this? Do you, I know you said you've got a Facebook. Is there any movements you started or any organizations you've done yet? I know you're starting to gain a pretty big fan base.
I think so.
What I hear, I had lots of people reaching out to me to try to come interview you.
Well, I have.
They seem to love you too.
I want to shout out Steve. Like, he is the dopest person on earth. Like, that man right there that's what it's like to be a person in an authority position with a huge platform and they know exactly how to use it. And
We're talking about Steve on PT
Steve
Newton
from
Network or Freight Broker Live.
yes, and I think that it is huge for people to pay attention to that because what he didn't have to look at little old me because I'm telling you now, my friends list was very short, you know, and my followers, and then I gained a lot because of the fact that he took time to see, um, to interview me and to see the skills and the qualities and stuff like that that I had to bring forth to the community, and that him seeing that spark is what sparked that same thing in everybody else's eyes to see. Like, so everybody else noticed it because he noticed it. He put shine a lot of light there and also invested a lot, you know. And so I think that there's going to be a lot to come forth with my polishing politics page, actual web page. Like, it feels like I'm dreaming and I'm like on this high of life right now because it's unreal. I never thought in a million years, you guys, that my life would be going this direction. Viral. I mean,
Oh, you went viral. Maybe viral's got different levels, you know. You might not be having in China watching you today, but I definitely had a lot of people reaching out to me about that video. So I think I remember you got a GoFundMe. Is that still going on?
Yeah. So I do. I have two. I'm gonna take one down because it's done its deal. In fact, Steve, Wake Up America, they posted it on the PT Freight page, and when he was going live and streaming, at that point, I believe John and a couple other people had mentioned like, hey, you know, like, does she have any type of funding accounts? And I mentioned that they seen my GoFundMe and posted it there, and it made over $3,500 in less than 2 hours.
Wow!
And I didn't even realize it when I went to go check out my page because Jennifer, another officer's wife, was like, "Hey Ray, you know, like, you gotta go look at your GoFundMe," and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And so oftentimes I'll get text messages and stuff, and I'll try and make sense of what's going on, but it was a lot. I had just left the downtown from the writing. I was tired, and when I seen that, it made me feel so good to see that
everybody's talking about your doggo. They're listening to you.
Mm-hmm, that he had honestly, truly took time out to even post it there. And so when I had left and I looked at it, and she had screenshotted it and showed me that it had at that point like $2,000 and some odd dollars. And when I tried to go onto my actual page to look at it, it was locked because so many people were like donating money so fast. And this was my beautiful dog, Zeus. I got Zeus after I got divorced from my last marriage, and they were saying some mean stuff on somebody's page about my dog, saying that I was abusive. And I hate dogs because of his little choke collar that he has. You can clearly see that he's spoiled. And
well, I have seen him, and he seems like a loved dog. So
thank you.
So just to clarify, where can people find that link to your GoFundMe?
It is on my page, Raeona Coleman. That's Raeona Coleman, spelled out like the camping gear, and that's Polishing Politics with Raeona Coleman. So you guys can go there, and I also have a Cash App, Venmo pages too. Those are, links. Those are also on my page as well. If you want to give directly to me, so this is something I'm like so nonchalant with it and like leaning to the left as far as I can away from the camera. But I really don't like asking for money, and I had one of my supporters say, hey, you know, like, it's really important that you take the time out to actually communicate that and say what you need, because I'm not working right now as far as an actual job.
All right.
I was blessed to co-host with Steve as a job, you know, but I get the donations that you guys give me, and that's what I use right now to do my little projects out in the community. I still want to do the helping hands, holding hands event with downtown, but I have to wait until things cool off. I'm not going down there by myself. I don't advise it at all for anybody else to either. But if you guys do want to support me, please feel free to go to my page. Make sure that if you don't have a dime to sow or to give, just make sure that you at least share my page and just share some kindness I'd rather you go and do something nice for somebody than to give me $1, because that's what really it's all about at the end of the day.
All right, and just how these things work, people are watching, shout it out one more time and spell the book out, the Facebook, because they won't write it down the first time and they'll wait for you to say it again.
Say it again.
Yeah, just say it one more time.
Okay, so
Your Facebook
Raeona
page.
Coleman, Polishing Politics with Raeona Coleman. That's RaeonaColeman, and Polishing Politics. And I think can you drop it down in the box like
I think so.
Pin it down there for them.
Yeah.
And then so I have a Cash App as well, and that's Ray Coleman, RaeColeman for Cash App. And then Venmo is Raeona Amadi, RaeonaAmadi.
All right. Well, I thank you so much for the interview, and thank you for diving into that crusty topic with me.
That was rough.
Yeah, I agree. I felt it too. You know, it was tense. You know,
I was like, okay,
but it's good though that those conversations need to happen so we can stop all the horrible atrocities that we're seeing. You know, have people come together and take those difficult conversations to see that the other person, and not just me and you, but the people watching, you know, just see the humanity in you. And just keep walling our little castles off and sticking to our own group and not listening or learning about other people that see things differently, you know?
Yeah, I'm starting a nonprofit organization called Empowering People by Holding Hands. And this right here is a great way for people to get involved. Like, this is how you help each other. This is how, when you can sit and have conversations like this, and you can also sit back and help each other invest and make different money moves and stuff like that, is how people grow. And so I think that in all actuality, I want to see my nonprofit organization thrive. I don't want to focus on the negative anymore about what's going on with the propaganda and whose perception is perceived on, you know, did this person do this right when this happened, when he died. Like, I think that's kind of more where I'm coming from. And I really hope that in the future, like moving forward, we're able to focus on something like that more. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, when we actually take time out and look at the fact that there are other things that we can be focusing on outside of the negative, and a lot of other things can get done, you know? And there's a lot of support out there that's needed. So,
well, I hope you get that up and going and get a good following, and it sounds like something to be very positive.
It is, and it's going to be live and direct, just as good as the channel. So,
all right,
you guys posted on it though, for sure.
Thank you for the interview, and thank you guys for watching. If you guys want to help Raeona out, get on her Facebook page, as mentioned, and see if you can help her follow. If you like this interview and these dialogues, please go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, share. If you want to help out independent journalism, the links to donate and how to help out are in the description of this YouTube video. And would you guys please critique me and roast me in the YouTube comment below, outside of the live chat. Critique me and roast me in the YouTube comments, and let's see how we can refine these interviews and make them better in the future. And thank you so much for you guys watching, and thank you for tuning in. You guys have a great day. The Villain Report is out.